I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Well, Friday, it's the Healing Circle, and I'm here with my colleague and my leader, Dr. BraVada Garrett-Akinsanya. We call her Dr. B with affection and love. Dr. B, good afternoon. Good to see you. How are you doing? We have to bring you in, and you're kind of muted at the moment. Anyway, let me bring you into the stage. There we go. Yeah, how you
Hey,
doing?
I'm fine. I'm glad to be here as usual on
Yeah.
Fridays with you to do the healing circle. And I'm looking very forward to continuing our conversation about healing through hard times and what that means for us as a community. So I'm so grateful that you've given us this space as a community to talk about our healing.
hmm Well, today we're going to be visiting again with Dr. Barbara Streets, who'll be joining us momentarily, I believe, and continuing the conversation about, um, you know, uh, wellness management and trauma, looking at the impact of chronic stress, of racism and uncertainty, uh, looking at how the body stores emotional pain in
Yeah,
ways we can recognize, manage, and heal
yeah.
from stress related trauma. And so Dr. Street shares her unique insights from her work in mental health and cultural immersion, and she offers practical tools for well being, resilience, and self care. You know, so I'm expecting a thought provoking conversation for all of us. Let me say to those who are joining us now or in the few minutes, we want you to support this conversation, this program, by subscribing. You can subscribe and you'll support our ability to bring more powerful discussions. We also want you to like and share and comment on the conversation. So you can, if you're on any of the platforms that we're streaming on, you can put a note in the comment section and we'll see it. We'll respond. We'll acknowledge you. We'll shout you out. And we thank you for being that. We're streaming to Facebook and to LinkedIn as well as to YouTube. So we're glad to have this variety of platforms to speak from. Dr. B, we always initiate this program with a protocol, which I love. So I'm going to pass the talking stick to you and ask you to introduce, bring our program into focus with the protocol.
Okay, thank you so much. As you know, and those of us who are regular guests, again, I welcome all the new people who may be listening today. We began our program by centering and using African centered practices. We see ourselves in a circle. And the important thing about a circle is there's no top or bottom, no beginning or end. And everyone in the circle has equal access to have power and voice, which is the center of the circle. And as we began, we do some breathing to center. And I'm going to just ask people to join me in just inhaling, holding a breath, and letting it go. Just inhaling all the good and letting go of the anger, stress, anxiety, letting it go. We invite you to look to your right. Notice that you're safe. As you breathe in and out, look to your left, noticing that you're safe. We invite you to look behind yourself, behind and over your shoulder, to see that you're in a safe space. And as you engage in this ritual, feel your chair holding you and your feet on the floor, grounding the fact that you're present and that you're here. Taking another breath and exhaling. Now, in this circle, we always begin by honoring our elders because nobody got here on your own. Someone worked your way, prayed your way, dreamed your way into existence. And we sit here as the embodiments of thousands and thousands of dreams and wishes, of hundreds and hundreds of years of hope. We sit here, the embodiment of that. And as we breathe in and out, we also honor our ancestors, for those are the shoulders that our elders stood on. And we are grateful for their presence and their bearing of witness of all we've done, all we will do, and all we will become. We honor our ancestors not just because they're the shoulders of our elders. We honor them because they are also closest to our Creator. And in our Creator is our ultimate form of connectedness as human beings on this planet, as brothers and sisters, hoping and dreaming for healing, joy, peace, and unity. And with that, we thank them. And for that, we thank them and our Creator. And together we say, Ashe, 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 just thank you.
All right. All right.
And with that, I give you the talking stick back. Oh, I forgot to say, we are very orderly. We also use an, I would say, virtual talking stick. You may see us passing it around because in that circle, because Africans are orderly, we ask to speak if we need to stick, but in an orderly fashion, everyone available will have an opportunity to talk, no matter how big, how small, how unimportant or important you may think your thoughts are. And before that, I once again say Ashe, and I kept fast the stick to Baba Al.
Thank you. I'll take the talking stick. Thank you, Dr. B. And let me remind people, we love to have you engaged in the conversation. And you can do that by going to YouTube, Insight News MN, and becoming a subscriber. We want you to like and comment, share, let people know that this conversation is going on. And we really want your voice. If you make a comment in the comment section, or you could also send an email to me. My email is al@insightnews.com. But we'd love to have you in the conversation, talking about what you're concerned about. Dr. B, let's kind of review the conversations we've had in the past couple of weeks with Dr. Streets. Important kind of mic drop conversations that talked about, I recall her starting with the idea that we should all every day start with the beginning, the feeling, the notion that we are here because we belong here.
That's right.
And as simple as that sounds, that is so profound. It lets you know that your existence at this place in this time is essential, critical, necessary, and ordained. Yeah, that's the first powerful insight I got from her presentation. But what are the things that she say to us so far that should keep us focused and grounded?
I like the fact that she did begin that conversation by letting us know that we are sitting in the midst of a divine appointment and that we are here because we are supposed to be, and that those who hear this message are supposed to hear this message. And those who don't hear it, they're supposed to hear it secondhand. Maybe they're supposed to hear it third hand. But the message is for all, and nobody's exempt from having the values of these lessons. She gave us tips on what we need to do to survive and deal with these processes of healing through hard times. And one of the things she taught us was you may have to learn to garden. You may have to learn how to build things. You may have to learn how to fix and repair things around you. And if you don't do that, then you'll find that you'll be lost in a society that no longer thinks of individuals within the context of a community. She taught us things like being able to notice the groundswell of hate around us, and where those scary places are in our society as people begin to propagate hate and stick to those ideas of people being socially less than because of the skin of their color, the color of their skin.
Mhm.
She also pushed us to do another couple of things, which is, I love what she said, that we needed to eat right
Mhm.
and get enough rest and water and the normal things that we ignore and take for granted, like having food to eat and water to drink, that we should relish it, that we should sit in that space of honoring our lives through that process. And then, as we went through one of the conversations, we talked a lot about the politics that are around us, that
Mhm.
are certainly being geared up to marginalize us and to breed white supremacy in the space of shared power as opposed to dominance. And
Mhm.
she talked about how we can combat that by establishing our own center of safety, like you were saying, our own safety environment and safety people, but also realizing that as we explore new people and new environments, they may be included in our circle of safety, and that we can't be too afraid to step out and take risk, but they need to be what I call calculated. And we need to do it in a way that assures that we are always in this space of making sure that we're safe and those around us that we love, that they're in a safe space. And that safety may mean as much as reading and studying and understanding a number of things in the environment, to being able to give it out and teach it to younger people, and honoring our elders that way. So it's been a very rich discussion that has been multifaceted, and each of them address this issue of
Mhm.
healing in hard times. And that these hard times that we have right now, they're breaking down our connections with each other, and sometimes even with ourselves. And we have to fight the need to still connect. And so it's really been very rich. And I'm hoping that today, as we talk about healing through hard times once again, and we begin to focus on our bodies,
Mhm.
because one of the core components of healing through hard times is recognizing, really recognizing that you have to live through them.
Mhm.
You got to live through them in order to heal through them. And so we know that when people are subjected to large amounts of stress and trauma, that their body actually keeps score. Your mind may say, you may say, oh, that's no big deal. And I remember the saying when we all grew up that said, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Only until we got older did we realize even that was a lie, because words can hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They really can hurt you. And
Yeah.
so, as psychologists, one of the things we hit on is our own research that shows us the impact of words. That when people alienate us socially, or talk about us negatively, that our brain reacts as if we're being physically assaulted. So we may not want to, we may not choose to admit it, but our body is keeping score of those assaults and the racialized trauma that we experience, and the racialized work, which we haven't talked much about so far. I'm thinking we're going to keep that for number 4, but the racialized work that we do, which means that a lot of times when we enter a space and we're the only one of color, or the
Mhm.
only male, or the only woman, or the only Stratman, or the only whatever, it
Mhm.
creates work to be in that space. And part of it is navigating the nuances of people's conversations, their expectations, their being unlike and you being different. Is very tiring, and it can be very depleting of one's sense of self, of one's sense of value. So as we talk about these things, the physical needs of care, and sometimes we have to do drastic things to care for ourselves and our health. That's what Dr. Streets has been trying to teach us.
One of the things that I took away from her lectures so far was this idea of connectivity. And you mentioned it, that the environment seeks to break our connections to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
if that is the case, we owe it to ourselves, and we must, in order to facilitate healing and being healed, be intentional in both keeping connected to those in our family, in our circles, and nurturing those connections. And that healing and nurturing does include, and I hadn't thought about this before, planned meetings, family meetings. Is there a meeting in your household to discuss the political environment, the consequences of economic challenges that we are seeing, the consequences of the potential for further disenfranchisement? Does that exist? And so I think that, I hadn't just really thought about, do you call your cousins and call your in-laws and say, let's have a conversation? Or do you build that into your dinner conversation at the house? Or do you go spend time taking walks and sharing in ways that people can talk about this question of stress and being shielded or resolving or not being uh, sort of wiped out by this heavy sense of stress that we're surrounded with right now? So let me ask Dr. B, how do you think, people, you know, you know, a lot of people listened to President Trump a couple of nights ago in his speech, but a lot of people chose not to listen. I listened to a little bit of it. I listened not directly on one of the broadcasts, but on a stream where I listened to where Don Lemon in particular was giving commentary alongside the president's presentation. I agreed with Don Lemon that his statement, his bravado, all of that was disgusting, absolutely atrocious. But it also revealed where he and the MAGA crowd stand, and it revealed their intent on creating a new power dynamic that we should believe them when they say they don't think there's a need for another election, that they want to basically anoint or appoint Trump for life and forego the Constitution. And they're doing this in their mind under the banner of making America great again. And that the America that they want to make great is an America that is racist and that is reflective of and revealing of the intention of white supremacist thought. They want to formally, once again, introduce that as the narrative, the dominant narrative in the world. That though they have, we've come through that already, through the period of enslavement and through our resistance and throwing off enslavement. We've come through it again through Reconstruction and their fight against us again to dismantle the gains of Reconstruction. And then we've made new gains in the modern civil rights era. But here they come again with their continued attack. And so the thought that comes to me from having looked at and listened to the president is that this is nothing more than the fact that some players feel the Civil War was never over.
That's right.
This is simply an extension, and they still are fighting to create a state that values white and that marginalizes and dehumanizes people that are not white, particularly African people. And that is driven by their own guilt of what they know they have done that is evil and immoral against fellow human beings under the name of white supremacy. That's what I take. So the question is, thinking all that, how do you navigate day to day and watch the news and then go do your job and then go home and be with your family, but not be totally overwhelmed and not be on edge all day, every day on the fight mode? Because Because if you don't pay attention to it, it's like being it's okay to be paranoid when you're swimming in an alligator pond.
That's right.
So, so those are general thoughts. Dr. Streets is here. Dr. Streets, how you doing? Good to see you again. And thank you for sparking this conversation.
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
Well, I'm going to pass the talking stick straight over to you because we want to continue this thought-provoking conversation that you've taken us into. So, Dr. Streets.
Okay. Well, thank you again. I did prepare a PowerPoint for today's show.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Are you able to pull it up?
We are. Jared is standing by and ready for you whenever you're ready, I think. Well, he's saying he's having some.
Yeah,
go ahead.
While he's setting it up, I'll respond to the question that you asked.
Yes.
And I will be moving around because in addition to the PowerPoint, I also have some things I want to show you with my camera if we get to that point.
Sure.
But I also did watch the presentation by President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I watched it from several different perspectives. I watched it with my own eyes and it was very interesting. And then I watched it and listened to commentary from different folks. This is what our ancestors went through, y'all. We know this. This is what our ancestors went through.
Mm-hmm.
The level of incivility and decorum, I think, is probably shocking for a lot of folks. But it does remind me of the frame that we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, is that we have to remind ourselves we're playing three-dimensional chess inside of a very interesting game. And the rules of decorum, although you might expect that there's a gentleman and a lady's agreement upon how we interact with each other, clearly that's not the case. But I'm observing. It isn't new. The behavior isn't new. There's nothing that's new. So I think one thing that we could do that's different though is be aware of what your body's doing while you're watching it. Mm-hmm. Be aware of if you're feeling triggered, if you're sweating, if you're, don't send any emails to anybody right away. Don't. It might be useful. What I've started doing is I exercise, and boy, do I exercise really hard. I walk a little faster. I'm aware I'm walking faster. I've got a battle rope. I'm really hitting my rope. Exercise, do something that's healthy. Don't eat while you're doing it. Don't drink alcohol. Go for a walk, turn it down or turn it off. I think also the body language is just as important for the people inside the chamber, the behavior of individuals. I think it's important to take out your pencil and paper and take notes. You're seeing the actions of acolytes and sycophants and those who are conscientious objectors but aren't saying anything. You're looking at people who feel fearful. You're looking at people who look like they're looking at deer and they're like deer in a headlight. Mm-hmm. Observe what you're watching. Observe the tense people. A lot of people are tense in the neck, and continue to observe.
That's right. That's right. Let me jump in right quick. I want to say that what I noticed in some of the clips, because I did not watch it, I decided to let my inner child be safe and not subject her to that abusive, scary, increasingly empowered entity called President Trump. So I chose to go to BET and listen to other people making comments about our own wellness and what we need to do. But what it happened to me is in this whole experience, and I know you'll remember this, Dr. Barber, when we were learning to be psychologists, a lot of us did experiments on mice and different things, and we read about different ways that people behave and why. And when a behavior is going to be extinguished, it's dying out, it's no longer any utility to it, or it's no longer being reinforced. When that behavior takes place, just as they lose that power of that behavior being recognized, the mice we studied, or the behaviors we studied, they would do what we call spontaneous recovery. And what that would mean is if a mouse had to get food and he'd hit the little lever and food would come, and we stopped giving him food through that lever, he'll just hit. He keeps hitting and hitting. He hits it harder more often than he ever did. And this to me is significant, because what I'm seeing is that fearful white folks and fearful folks of color who are not comfortable with the order of the world shifting, that they're engaging in a socio-cultural measure of spontaneous recovery. They're going back to trying to be exactly what they were, repeating those same behaviors that got them where they got to them today, that have no longer been serving them. They're trying to use them again, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But eventually, what happens in spontaneous recovery is they don't win. The mouse will stop hitting. He'll say, to hell with it. I'm not going to get any foods this way. I better figure out some other way, because this one isn't working anymore. And this is what they're doing by their plan 2025. This is what they're doing by their turning the volume up on the egregious behavior. They're just engaging in social-cultural measure of spontaneous recovery. And we, as those who are witnessing, like my dear psychology daughter, Dr. Barbara Streets, is teaching us, when we witness it, we need to know what we're looking at. So I give you the stick back, Dr. Barbara, but I had to grab it out of your hand for a minute just to say an amen and say, no teach it.
Yeah, no problem. You know, one of the things that I'm thinking of as you were talking is, if I were in a group of individuals and they were all white, and they have a lot of, and if they had a lot of the anger and the rage and the frustration that we saw last night, I think one of the first things that I would say is, I'm not trying to kill you. I don't have an investment in you disappearing. I'm not trying to annihilate your children. I'm not trying to see you expire from this planet. There's no move that I make, no thing that I say, no activity that I engage in that is devoted to seeing you disappear.
That's interesting. Let me jump in, because number one, it sort of identifies their fear, the source of it. But the question is, us saying that and telling them that they don't have to be absorbed in that fear, does that change them? Because we still have to recognize the reality, the harshness, and the fatal consequence of their, whatever you call it, their worldview, because the history tells us what they have done and are capable of doing, right? And so now we've identified the why, is this fear of annihilation, and we're saying that one of our responses can be to assure them that we have no interest in eliminating them. But what does that do? Does that change them or not?
Well, again, this is something I'm thinking about. Mm-hmm. There is something that's being expressed that isn't being expressed. It's the unstated in all of these speeches and all of these presentations. It's one of the things behind Project 2025. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's the only thing. I'm saying it's one of those things, and that is the fear of annihilation of people who are white. It brings to the present that which is unstated, and it says, here's what's in the room. What does it do? It may do, first of all, folks may not be able to hear that. You may have to repeat it a couple of times. But instead of not addressing the thing that is clearly one of the biggest fears, it seems to me folks can't get any further. You can't have a conversation with someone who's in the middle of a narcissistic rage.
Hmm.
And in fact, I would even suggest that you can't speak to someone until they're at some type of emotionally regulated space. And the purpose of that is to provide to the space some type of emotional regulation by addressing the elephant that's in the room.
Okay.
That's right. And I think that elephant is one that is based on characterological errors and foundations. Dr. Joe Fagan has this book called the about white psychological framing, and when he talks about the white frame of privilege and who we should be, I think it's difficult for many of our white brothers and sisters to recognize that changing doesn't mean bad. It can mean adapting. And as they see the global majority looking more and more colorful and unlike them, that's what steeps their fear. Is that not only are people of color believing one thing, they have other white brothers and sisters who are also activists, who are also believing that power should be shared. And so there's a minority group that's getting louder and louder and manipulating power and control because they know the rules, they wrote them. And so they're abusing the rules so they can stay in touch of the power that they have. So I'm thinking that what we have to do in our work with community is to remind them that the truth is they can't stop the world from growing. They can't stop babies from being born who are going to be babies of color. That's why they're trying to force white women to have more white babies. And it's just a whole lot to it. And they don't mind that Black women babies die because that makes less of us. And they want white women to have more babies. That's why they're forcing them to hold pregnancies, and that's who it impacts mostly. So we understand that this is about power and control. That is ultimate face. This is what it's about. And it's about survival and survival means the way I've used power. I'm afraid you would do the same thing to me if you had the opportunity. And that's the characterological flaw, because Black folks we just centered spiritually in a way that doesn't pull down everyone. And if we do that, it's been learned. It's not innate to us. And they can't believe that, because they wouldn't do what we do. They wouldn't hate white people. I mean, they would hate white people if the tables were turned. They wouldn't look for white friends or look for equity, and they wouldn't have love for others who don't look like them. I'm telling you, it's this deep as can be. I'm telling you.
Dr. Barber, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to see if I can, I'd like to share the PowerPoint that I made for today, and I'm wondering if this might work. And so if you can just bear with me for a moment.
Sure, take your time. Yeah, and Dr. B and I can keep going while you're looking that up. So
yeah, and I also have Dr. Barber's PowerPoint, so I could see if I can do it from this end as well.
See if you can share it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, let me see here. Down here on the bottom, it says
that would be great.
Present. Is that what I need to hit? The present button?
Yeah, Jared is walking you through it on the chat there on the, he says yes.
Okay. Slide. Share screen. Do I need to do slides and PDFs or share screen? Or both?
Jared, share screen, he says.
Okay, share screen. So now I've got her PowerPoint here.
Great.
Let me see here. Let me see if I can get to it. Let's see here.
And then Jared, when that comes up, you can sort of move the three of us to the side and just have her PowerPoint being the main
Let me see.
image. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Can you
Awesome.
see the PowerPoint?
Almost. I think we
Let
have
me
to
see.
add it to the stage.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, I think Jared can do that, I think. I see it in the he says minimize the show
Okay.
and just have the PowerPoint up. There we go.
Okay,
Let
let me
it know.
see. Now I don't see this. Oh man, I don't see the PowerPoint at all. Actually, I don't see anything. Let me see. Oh dear. Okay, I think I'm seeing the PowerPoint again. See if I can open it.
There it is.
Can you see it now?
Jared says, there we go. I think that's it. Is that it?
Okay.
So you can go back one slide, please, and then go. Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. B.
You're welcome, Dr. B yourself.
So I thought about starting this off with this idea about, you know, how we go out to eat and we make reservations, and oftentimes it's important, you know, we make reservations when something's very important, when we have a big event coming up, or we want to acknowledge something, or it's a way of saying I'm holding something, I'm reserving something, I'm keeping something in mind. That's very important. And so that's a general idea I wanted to work with. So the idea is to make that very important reservation for yourself, to hold for yourself that in these times of stress and frustration and worry, that you make.
Hold on, Dr. B, can you push the hide just so that message is not there? Where it says stop sharing. No, and stop in the middle. Where it says stop sharing. Push hide. Don't push that. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dr. Barbara.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So that you make a promise or arrangement to hold something for yourself, that even while you're watching these things and it's frustrating, it's upsetting, it's odd, it's weird, that you create a opportunity, reserve your peace, reserve a place for yourself, make a promise for yourself to hold on to your own sense of self, dignity, worth, sanity. And you can, and I put that plate there, and that because it's a very important promise that you're making for yourself, that you do this each day. Does that make sense, Dr. B?
Yes, it does.
Can you go to the next slide?
Sure.
So I had a couple of purposes for today. I'm going to focus on number 6, number 5, and number 3, because when you're ingesting, you keep saying with the idea of a reservation, when you're ingesting toxic information, it can work on you. It can work on you in your mind, your body, and your spirit. And so I think it's important, though the information out there that we're hearing in the political sphere can be negative, there is a lot of positive stuff. People are doing some really good things for everyone around. So I think it's important to be aware of what you're ingesting. But I'm going to focus on number 6, 5, and 3. And so if you can just go to the next slide.
Okay. Be glad to.
And then the next. So, and then the next slide. Did you know that this month is Cancer Awareness Month? Go to the next slide.
Mm.
And so March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. This, the American Association for Cancer Research has this fantastic website that talks about all the survivor journeys, progress that's being made, some innovations, ways to get involved, to be connected. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this note here that I wanted to share about some of the factors that are contributing to cancer. I think you might be So CRC is what is colorectal cancer. It's a very common cancer, the third most diagnosed and second deadliest cancer among all Americans. And some interesting stats regarding the black-white incidence ratio for colorectal cancer is 1.13, indicating that for every 100 white individuals with it, there are 113 African Americans.
Mm.
The article itself is very good. You can see the citation and note where to get it to the right. Black Americans present 3 to 7 years earlier in the median age for colorectal cancer diagnosis than for white Americans. And what's interesting too is that young people who are athletes, who've been seemingly having a very robust, healthy life, are also getting different types of cancer. So there's some very interesting things going on. Next slide, please. So about 65% of the risk comes from environmental factors, and some of the things that contribute to it for African Americans. One of those things is our diet, based on what we can afford. Ingesting diets based on socioeconomic ability are sometimes some of the things that contributes to colorectal cancer. Lower levels of physical activity, higher rates of obesity, possibly tobacco and alcohol use, generational mistrust of the healthcare system, meaning that perhaps we're not going and getting screenings or trusting our doctors or following through. Next slide, please. So FIT are it's basically getting a stool sample. You can do this. You can go to your drugstore, and you can get a couple of tests to help check out what's going on inside of your gut. So the colonoscopy and the fecal immunochemical tests are first tiered screening tests. And there are other things that people can look at, like CT scans. But you want to get screened. And that's why I want everyone to, make sure you look at that URL from that prior slide, because the screening can be really, really helpful. Interesting fact, though many people don't do it, it is possible to have your colonoscopy and be wide awake. Because the inside lining of your intestine, large intestine, does not have nerve endings in the same way other parts of your body. So you can actually see the process. You certainly will need a lot of deep breathing, but it is possible. So I thought that might be a fun fact. Next slide, please.
You and your fun fact.
So colorectal cancers are being seen earlier and earlier. Some of the factors contributing to it: unhealthy diet and microbiome. And I'm going to speak more about that. Obesity, chemicals in the environment. I'm going to say something about that. Use of antibiotics, which can destroy and blow out your gut biome. You know how we all go to Africa sometimes and we want to visit the ancestors. You're blowing out the natural biome in your gut. And sometimes it can take a long time to recreate that environment. Consuming alcoholic beverages, of course, and sedentary behaviors. But I think that it's an important, I wasn't aware of all the number of times I've been to Africa, how damaging some of that medicine was to my gut biome. Next slide, please. So we all know that folks are talking about reducing red meat, limiting those servings to no more than 3 servings a week, and that we should not be eating hot dogs. Now, how often do we go to cookouts, birthday parties, gender reveals, and not only do we see the hot dogs, but when you put them on the grill and you charcoal them, there is an added effect of damage to the body. Did you know that? I didn't know that. But it's poison on top of poison. Bacon, salami, because these foods can increase the risk of colorectal cancer, among others. So it's really interesting. Bring your own bean-made dogs to the cookout. Or in fact, gift some of those to people. And I'm not suggesting getting something that has been processed and says that it's vegan. I'm suggesting you actually make your own, and that you not use any seed oils in the processing of that. On the other hand, a diet rich in fresh fruits and vegetables, nuts, whole grains can lower the risk of developing certain cancers. I would not buy farm-raised fish personally. Next slide, please. So how do you help build your microbiome? Next slide, please.
Before you go on, Dr. Barbara, before you go, you mentioned a couple of slides back about the experience of going to Africa and that blowing out your system. What did you mean by that? You said that.
Excuse me. When you are taking some of these antibiotics, it destroys also the good gut biome. And it may take quite a while to repair that, to rebuild that once it's been blown out.
Okay.
This next slide here that Dr. B is showing you, this is a very, very, I think probably one of the most important. If you don't do anything all week, watch this. It just came out in the last 24 hours. Dr. Aja McCutcheon, she is talking about gut dysfunction and how it contributes to things like cancer and other major health disorders. That apparently, when you think about the thin layer in your gut, it's just one cell membrane. That's very thin. That means things can pass through that should not be passing through. She talks about chemicals in the environment and how they connect to gut dysfunction. If we even listen to 5 minutes of that, I think people's mind would be blown if they've never heard about the connection between the gut and cancer. Next slide, please.
Sorry, something happened.
Sounds like your power is about. Oh, there
we go.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I hit something. There we go.
Next slide, please.
I'm trying to go. Is this it?
Okay. And then that one I put in because I just think, the gut is very, very interesting. Did you know that there are 100 trillion microbes in your gut right now? Did you know that babies born through a C-section have a different gut microbiota composition than babies coming through vaginal birth? Did you know that breast milk, breastfeeding is important to help build up the gut biome? Did you know that 60 tons of food pass through your GI tract in your life? Did you know that your gut and your brain, we talk about our heart a lot, he broke my heart, but we often talk about our intuition. I had just had a gut feeling about them. Just something didn't feel right. Did you know that there is a gut-brain axis that they actually talk to each other, and that what you eat and put in your body and the ability, whether or not your body can metabolize that, can impact your mood and your emotions. And that the science is fantastic. But I put this slide in because I know I'm going to do some presentations for you at some point in the future, Dr. B. I think it's important for people to have a real basic idea of the beauty and diversity of what happens in the gut. And so this is like a very short, little quick film about that from Science ABC. Next slide, please. Now, we're talking about gut, but I think it's important. If you, let's make a bet. I bet you that if you read or watch 5 peer-reviewed resources on endocrine disruptors, the information will change your life. Dr. Swan is one of my new favorites. People might have celebrity favorites. I have research favorites, and she's one of them. She is a reproductive epidemiologist. It's a really cool show called After School. They actually have one called Before School too. And she talks about these chemicals that severely alter our hormones. We had a lot of research here in the United States about the impact of endocrine disruptors on health, on sperm counts specifically. But did you know that now they have done research all over the world, and it's the same trend? The issues, colleagues, it's that it isn't just a fear of people being wiped out. Everybody's fertility, with some exceptions, is going down around the world. And people are pointing fingers at looking at these endocrine disruptors. This is this is a very important video to watch. And anything that she puts out, she is a clear-minded scientist. She talks about what she knows. If she doesn't know what I like about her, she says, I don't know. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share some books. So this is from my own library. Good. Next slide, please. It's about my own library. And if you want to beat cancer, there's an incredible wealth of books. Beat Cancer Daily by Chris Wark, Deep Nutrition, Radical Hope by Kelly Turner and Tracy White, The Truth About Cancer, How to Starve Cancer, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. But check out the one called Radical Remission. Radical Remission, if you only read one of these books that I'm talking about, make it be this one. It's called Radical Remission, Surviving Cancer Against All Odds. This woman's doctoral dissertation. Did you know that there are thousands and thousands of people around the world who have beat cancer without chemotherapy or radiation? Did you know that? She talks about 9 key factors that were in common for folks. I put them on that list there, but I'm going to read. I made a couple of highlighting marks. Radical remission means when a person's cancer goes away without any conventional medicine, or the cancer patient tries conventional medicine, but the cancer does not go into remission. So he or she switches to alternative methods of healing, which do lead to a remission. Or a cancer patient uses conventional medicine and alternative healing methods at the same time, and they outlive a prognosis. This book has stories about individuals. I went online and looked up some of those people. It's amazing, some of these stories. But there are largely ignored 1,000+ cases published in medical journals of people who've had radical remissions. And article after article after article. Let me go to another notation here that I have. So what were some of those common factors changing your diet? And every chapter, she goes into great detail. Taking control of your health. I think that if you have cancer, you got to have, a champion song. You know how, go to your favorite gospel music, but make sure whatever gospel song or you might have, for example, make sure that you change the words so it focuses on an internal locus of control. So you know how a lot of songs have the Almighty and Jesus and Savior. The song, you've got to change those words and put your name there. You've got to have an internal locus of control, because it's a different mindset, Dr. B. It's a very different mindset. So part of that is taking control of your health. You've got to, some people don't read they just don't read the material. Here's an example. You remember when COVID was out, and when if you were to take the medicine, how many people actually read the PDF for the vaccine?
Yeah.
If you did not read the PDF, I read it. If you didn't read the PDF, you're missing out on important information that can help you make informed decisions. Read, if you've gotten into the habit of just pressing accept, even when you get a new computer or iPhone, you should be reading the PDFs that go along with it. The same is true for any and everything about your treatment plan for cancer. Read the fine print. Let the doctors know you want to read information. That's part of taking control of your health. Yeah. Follow your intuition, using herbs and supplements, releasing suppressed emotions, which is, we talked about that a moment. Even if the suppressed emotion is about what's in the room. Remember, we just talked about if you're in front of people who might be uncivil toward you, there's a lot of repressed emotions in there. We all are feeling it. State it. You can state it in a civil way. What's going on with cancer is that those who have radical remissions, they release those repressed emotions. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. Why do these white folks want to kill me? I have done nothing to them. This is frustrating. State how you feel. Increase positive emotions. You know, fall in love. With discernment. With discernment,
That's for
please.
sure.
I got to put that disclaimer in there. Embrace social support, deepen your spiritual coping space and your spiritual core, and have a strong reason for living. When people get that diagnosis, sometimes they don't feel like they want to live.
Yeah.
You got to find some kind of reason. Maybe, you know what, in the book, Radical Remission, the woman, you know, some people couldn't find a reason, but they found a reason for their grandkids. They wanted to see their grandkids. Find something. Those are the 9. Now, listen, I think she had like a whole total of 42, but these were the 9 that kept showing themselves over and over again. Next slide, please. Now, she also has a database and podcasts of people who have had stage 3C, 3A, B, C, stage 4, people who were told, go home, you know, just be with your family. We'll make the pain as gentle as, gentle as possible. There are stories of people for every kind of cancer there is. She has a database of people around the world who have had radical remission, and they talked about what they did. Isn't that awesome?
It is very awesome.
And she has a podcast. There you go. Next slide, please. So these are some more books. Dr. Andrew Weil, I'm going to move and go into my living room now because I put these books in there. But Dr. Weil, I mean, everybody knows about Dr. Weil. You know, we've been following him for years. He's got a way to heal common illnesses, Path to Healing, a guide to wellness for body, mind, and soul. The magnesium solution for high blood pressure. Oh shit, Dr. Marcel Tahiro is a really good book about. Obviously, you know, it's about the Gerson therapy, a proven nutritional program for cancer and other illnesses. You can find it online, the documentary online. I will tell you this. Some people have mentioned this to medical doctors, and the anger and rage and was strong because doctors are trained to do the standard care, and this is quote unquote not considered the standard of care. But in that documentary, people had stage 4 type cancers, and now they were interviewed 25 years later when they were told they had less than 6 months to live.
Yeah.
Dr. Sebi's book, The Pleasure Trap. Why is that bad food for us tastes so doggone good? There's a reason for it. That is a very interesting book. I think that you should probably go buy a whole bunch of junk food, your favorites, and then each person read a section of this book and talk about it. That would be a very important, I think, outreach program. The probiotics revolution this is helping to curb inflammation, enhance immune function. The gut microbiome is so important because that's where your soldiers are to fight the cancers. If you want to talk about allergies, eczema, and asthma, look at your gut. You want to talk about yeast infection, look at your gut. Everything starts in the gut.
Wow.
The next one, fiber fueled. Now, I'm telling you, when I get contrary information, it frustrates me because sometimes I'm wondering, are these bots just putting out contrary stuff? And I heard one person say 40% of responses on internet are bots. So I've got to remind myself, okay, this could be a bot. Don't take it personal. It might be a bot. But I'm going to continue my information about fiber because I'm getting some mixed information about it. Cleanse to Heal, Medical Medium by Anthony William. How Not to Die, Michael Greger. Okay, another one of my faves. So he's my another one of my celebrities. Next slide, please. Okay, The Anti-Inflammatory Diet. It's a book for a beginner, no stress plan for healing your immune system. What does that mean? Working on your gut. By Any Greens Necessary, a revolutionary guide for Black women who want to eat green, get healthy, lose weight, and look what? Fat. All right. Okay.
With pH.
With pH. Education over medication. That's Dr. Bobby Price. He's a pharmacist. He started having health problems. He started becoming more conscious. He went to some of the green areas, Okinawa, and somewhere in Japan specifically. I think it was Okinawa, and he started studying people. He has a farm, y'all, and he grows fruits that fight cancer. Soursop. Do you know that soursop leaves and soursop fights cancer? Did you know that pomegranates? Did you know that okra? There, Dr. B, when you and I do this together, I have another list. All these foods that just, bam, bam, bam.
Dr. Barbara, do you have this list of books that we can share? Jessica Hayden is asking, can we put this list in the chat? Do you have it typed out already or not? Maybe not.
I don't have it typed up, Jessica, but I will do it for you. I got you, girl.
Okay.
And maybe we can post it also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Next book, Dr. Arnold's Musculus Diet Healing System. And then another book on the blood pressure cure. Can you go to the next slide, please? Notice that they're all on a plate.
Yeah.
Next slide, see. So here's some of my favorites. And you can see I only did 3 things on that list because I knew we wasn't going to get to a lot of stuff. So Queen Afua, look her up. She's been in the holistic healing game, for as long as I can remember, forever. She does a lot of good stuff on womb wellness, meditation, creating a healing environment. She recognizes that the power that we have in the kitchen is where the health of the family begins. I talked about Dr. Bobby Price, the pharmacist. He has a farm. I think his farm is in Florida. Yaki Awaken. Y'all have heard of Yaki, right?
I have not.
Oh my goodness. He is the bomb. He had a huge medical crisis. His life has changed around. He looks completely different than the way he used. Oh my goodness. You know what? Just this one slide, if we spent 10 minutes on each of these people, it would be just eye-opening, amazing. Because not everybody is into reading, but lots of people will watch, stuff on videos. Just 10, 15 minutes of each of these people. I think it would really change your life. Adama is in Atlanta. She's been vegan since 1978. I personally reached out to her. She has a whole thing. I mean, she will send you, she's amazing. Stuff to clean, do a whole body clay pack for your whole body. She's teas she makes for, she makes herself. She is the real deal. Very powerful woman. Very, just her and Queen Afua. My goodness, man. Oh, sorry. I spoke about Dr. Michael Greger, evidence-based nutrition. Oh, Kilpatrick is written twice there. So Lane Kilpatrick is a pharmacist and a hormone specialist. And then there's Dr. Yvonne Burkhart, who's a toxicologist who talks about reducing your toxic load.
Yeah.
So because there are a lot of toxic chemicals in the world. Next slide, please. Oh, bonus items in the kitchen. Come to my kitchen, people. Let me see. Will this work? Dr. B, let me see.
Do I need to stop sharing the slides?
I don't know. Do you? Okay. Let me turn the light on. Okay.
I think I have to stop sharing slides.
No. You don't have to stop sharing because we're going to go to that slide in a second.
Okay.
This is some fun.
Okay.
Start growing your own broccoli sprouts. If you listen to Yaki Awaken, this has sulforaphane in it. That kills cancer, people. Broccoli sprouts are so powerful. Here's a sprouting jar.
We can't see it. At least I can't.
You can't see.
Now we see it.
Oh, you do it?
Sprouting jar. Can you see it?
Yep. We see it.
Okay, it's kind of a zesty sprouting mix, seed sprouter. Okay, we got that. How about grow your own limes? What? Okay, go to the store. Manuka honey. is fantastic. I've got I also have here, make your own, purify your own water, and then make sure you got to add appropriate salts to it. Dr. Bobby Price does these cleanses. Here's an example. He does a tummy detox, and he also does a parasite cleanse. There is a 92-year-old woman who is still teaching aerobics that got me on to natto, which is a Japanese food. This changed my life. I love this stuff. It was gross at first. I love it now. Sea moss. There are different types of sea moss. Always make sure it's well harvested. A juicer, and then a super duper juicer that is used, that individuals who have cancer are using. If you can't afford that, start here with the regular juicer. Dr. B, can you go back to?
I never left, so I don't know what.
Can you go back to the slide?
I'm still there. I don't know how somebody did some.
There it is. And we've got about 5 minutes.
All right.
We've got about 5 minutes, Dr. Barbara.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'm almost done. That was the bonus. So thank you for going into the kitchen. Health starts in the kitchen. Next slide. Next slide should say.
The slide just said final thought.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes. So we're at the end. Whew. So make a reservation. You can start any kind of way, just with that one book, but make that reservation with yourself and say, you know what, I'm gonna treat you as if you are the guest of honor, and I'm gonna do that every day. I'm gonna do one thing each day that's gonna assist in making sure that you don't want to just survive, you want to thrive.
Yep.
So make that reservation for yourself right now. Thank you.
That's awesome. So let me make this comment, Dr. B and Dr. B. What I hear you advising and directing and teaching, Dr. Barbara, is that even in the midst of the chaos, the uncertainty, the stress that is both present and that is historical or generational, that there is a path to healing. And the path you've described in the past hour is a path that is inward, to not be distracted or consumed by all of the distracting and debilitating forces from outside you, the television, the TikTok, the video, all those things that are pressing against you day in and day out, but rather take this time to journey inward. And journeying inward begins with journeying to acknowledge and work on and work with your own personal health, including examining the gut biome, right? And practices that focus on how you can be the director in charge of your own personal health. And that is one of the pathways to surviving the chaotic environment. Does that sound right, Dr. Barbara, Dr. B?
Yes, it is. You hit it right on the head. The one thing that we do have control over is our reactions. Mm-hmm. We can continue to be emotionally regulated, and what we put inside of our bodies, the people that we hang around, those are things that we have control over. And so I'm aware that lawyers are fighting. I'm aware that there's community movement. I'm aware that people are putting together ways that they can build a financial legacy. I'm aware of those things. What Dr. B and I are focused on is, what does it look like in terms of your mental and emotional health in this period of a unique type of trauma.
That's right. And knowing that the body keeps score.
Awesome. I think let's drop it right there. The body is keeping score.
That's it.
Pay attention. Thank you, Dr. Barbara Streets. Thank you, Dr. B. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.